blessings to have you on Sports Talk 1996 on YouTube with me, Zach Barnett, Mr. The Point After author. And you all right today?
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad we were able to connect today.
Yes, sir. So let's get it rolling with, how did you get involved with football as a kid?
Yeah, so I started really young at age 8. My dad was like a super athlete, I guess you could say. He was all state for football, basketball, baseball, and so sports was like a big part of my life. It was a big part of just growing up. I grew up in Erie, PA, which is an amazing sports town. So like sports was everywhere, and my father suggested one day that I go to a punt, pass, and kick competition, and so we drove out to the country. I came in 3rd place against a bunch of like 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and after that, I was just hooked.
You're addicted. I hear you, man. So besides your dad in the football realm, who else did you look up to and like model your game after?
Yeah, I don't know about modeling my game. Well, I guess there's 2 people in terms of modeling my game. It was Morton Anderson. When I was getting into football in the 80s and watching it on TV, he was, I wouldn't say the first. He was the first player to go from soccer to football, because in terms of making a kicker look like a really strong kicker. Like we had kickers coming from Europe, but for the most part, like, they weren't blasting 50, 60-yard field goals and nailing their kickoffs into the end zone. But when Morton Anderson arrived, he like changed the game for kickers. And so he was someone I really looked up to and tried to style my kicking after. And then someone who really made a big impact me as a coach would be Amos Jones, who after all these years is still kicking the NFL. He was my coach at Pitt, who really helped me go beyond like the physical in my kicking. I used to spend a lot of time watching video work after practice. I would spend a lot of time like being more like a perfectionist kicker, like looking at all my mistakes. But he played for the Bear Bryant, the Bear in Alabama, who was more about visualization, positivity, and so he had me focus more on like my good kicks, the kicks where I had like really good form on that. So that was a big shift for me. So those are, that was the player that I looked most up to. And that was the coach that probably made the biggest impact on me. It was Amos Jones.
Definitely, Sean. So you mentioned your time at Pittsburgh. How did Pittsburgh help you or prepare your journey to the next level, the NFL and your professional career?
Yeah. The University of Pittsburgh was great. It helped me in a few different ways. The first thing was when I got there, they already had 4 or 5 guys already on scholarship. So I started way down at the bottom. I was a walk-on. So I had to go from like 7th on the depth chart to 1st. So it helped me a lot just not look at other players as competition and look at just like myself as a competition. My mind's a competition, my own training regimen is a competition, just focusing on what I needed to do and not worrying about out there. So I was able to move by the time the season started, from number 7 on the depth chart to the starting kicker. And so, that taught me a lot about just keeping that focus. Also, playing at the University of Pittsburgh really helped my kicking because of the elements. So like when we played, it was cold, it was rainy, it was both sometimes. So that really helped, for, when I went beyond the NFL and Pittsburgh actually to me almost seemed like the tropics, because I grew up in Erie, where it would snow from like November through April, where I would train a lot like on piles of snow. So when I got to Pittsburgh, it was like just amazing weather to me.
Definitely, man. So with your time with the Colts, your NFL journey, what was the toughest kick for you to make?
Well, the toughest kick for me when I was with the Colts was probably the one that when I was injured, when I was in training camp there, I had a really good opportunity to unseat the starting kicker, but the veteran kicker did what a lot of veteran kickers do when there's another kicker in camp who's trying to take their job is they'll take a lot of rest and they'll sit out a lot of sessions. So I was doing a lot of the reps, and it got to a certain point where my leg felt like it was going to fall off. I was experiencing pain and fatigue. And so one day we had a practice in front of, this was late in the training camp. We had a practice in front of the fans, the media, they were all there. And I had to go out and kick a a 50-yard field goal. My holder was Jim Harbaugh, and I came up short. And so, coming up short from 50-yard field goal is not so bad in college, but coming up short 50 yards in the NFL is that'll get you the pink slip really quick, which actually happened a couple of days later. So that was probably the kick that was probably one of the most unfortunate for me.
Definitely, man. So Sean, I know every football journey has to come to an end. So life after football for you personally, how have you applied the trials and tribulations of the game to your personal life?
Yeah, great question. What I learned the most, like in my NFL journey, was just being more in the present moment. I know it sounds a little cliche, but when I was with the New York Jets, and that was my last stop, my career ended because of injuries. My hip flexor had degenerated, where I no longer had strength in it. I had back problems, and so for me, for a few years, I really beat myself up mentally, thinking like if I would have done this differently, if I'd have maybe took more rest, if I'd have did more stretching, yoga, like something like that. If my mental game would have been different, because sometimes I get really hard on myself, like when things didn't go my way in my career, and I kind of get down, so like up and down. So for me, like that's my transition. I eventually became a yoga teacher, and one of the main reasons is because I realized how much I was thankful for how much it helped me physically, because after a few years of doing yoga, once my football career ended, my back got back to the point where, I could have made a comeback in the NFL, but once you've been out of the league for a few years, like it's over anyways. But physically I felt great, but also mentally it just helped me, move on and find some clarity in the whole situation. And instead of looking back at my career as a failure, which I did for a long time, I was able to reframe it and be a lot more grateful that I was able to, get to the point or get as far as I did in my career.
Definitely, man. So I'm glad you mentioned Harbaugh, a quarterback. So these next two questions are brought to you by B&D Sports Media and its current NFL topics. I don't know if you've seen the Kyler Murray contract with the little incentive-based type of deal where he has to do 4 hours of game film, which is kind of crazy to think about it. But what are your thoughts on his contract?
Whoa, that's news to me. I did not see that. But I guess the first things first. Yeah, I've never heard of that where they would ask someone to like do required film, because it's usually just part of the job. So
it's mandatory.
Yeah, mandatory. Yeah, so something must be happening there. But other than that, unfortunately, I don't know too much about that contract. But that's wild.
Definitely, man. So the next one's about your Colts quarterback that they brought in from Atlanta, Matt Ryan. How do you think Matt Ryan will do with the Indianapolis Colts? I think he's going to be a stud for him. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys who just goes, takes his lunch pail to work and just gets the job done, which I think fits in like with where the Colts are right now. Just they don't need anything flashy, but they just need someone who they call him like the game manager, and just with that role. It's going to be interesting. I mean, the AFC, I'm here in Pittsburgh with everyone's here is excited about Kenny Pickett, and you have all these new young quarterbacks in the AFC North. It's going to be wild.
Pittsburgh guy. No, you little slide devil. You try to give him a holler.
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, I grew up in Erie. I was a Cleveland Browns fan, but then once I went to the University of Pittsburgh, it kind of shifted. But yeah, so now with Kenny Pickett at Pitt or with the Steelers, that's my team.
Definitely. You got to stay with your teams that you gave you an opportunity. So.
Absolutely.
But I think with Matt Ryan coming in, I think they're going to make a playoff run. It's just, I think it's inevitable. Just saying.
Yeah, absolutely. They've had some bad luck with his name escapes me right now. The one who had to retire early. Help me out. Luck. Yeah, Andrew Luck. I mean, unbelievable. But he made the right decision. But I think Matt Ryan. I think it's a perfect fit.
Heck yeah, man. Well, Sean Connolly, we'll end on this. Where can my audience find you on social media and buy your book?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm on Instagram, and my website is seanconnolly.net. They can find my book there, as well as Amazon, bookstores, and all those good places. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Definitely, man. Well, Sean Connolly, would welcome you back for another one on Sports Talk 1996 on YouTube with me, Zach Barnett. Until next time, my guy.